Welcome back everyone. Got this nice Planet X bike in today. It's not here for a service, but it's in for another major job. It's the dreaded internal cables. Let's go. So the only thought about doing it myself, and then I had a bit of a panic attack, so give it to me. So let's see what we can do. We're going to change both the front and the rear any cables. We'll probably do the out as well. We've got it into pieces, we may as well. This funky orange bar tape's going to have to go, unfortunately. It's got some damage to it anyway, it's not particularly well wrapped. That's coming off so we can get access to everything in here. We're going to change this piece of inner lining here that goes down to the bottom bracket while we change this cable. The owner's asked me if we can try and make use of the internal routing for this handlebar. Unfortunately it's on hydraulic discs, so that does make it a pretty big job now. We can at least internally route the gear cable out after we've replaced it as well. So the first thing we're going to do is get this bar tape off. I say it's not in particularly good condition anyway, so this needs to go before we can get access to the lever. Finishing tape, some insulating tape, some old tape, there's all sorts. A nice bike, very nice bike. Got a brand new gold chain on it, looks very blingy. Let's see how well it works. So SRAM double tap, it's definitely not my favourite shift system in the world. So it's not been particularly well wrapped here, it should be figure of 8 at least. It's just sort of wrapped around and gone over. So we'll see if we can improve that. This is coming off easy. There's no adhesive on this, it's just got actually nothing on here at all. Not even a gel backing, which is nice because it needs a nice clean bar. Got these gold end plugs, we're going to try and retain these as well. Wasn't even underneath this. I'll just unwrap the other side. Next, just unwrap this. So a knife's the best way to do it, just be super careful with the bar. Just take your time. Okay, so unwrapped. So here's the other end of that hole where potentially we could internally route. It looks super tight to get these in here though. When you get the gear one through there, but this brake hose one is going to sit at a bit of a strange angle. It might be possible, but what we want to try and avoid obviously is putting any pressure or sharp edges onto the brake hose when it's through. Right, what we'll do is mark up this lever because we're going to have to probably undo it and see what's happening, and then we can start taking cables out and maybe hoses. So just mark up the lever with a Sharpie pen here and a cross line there so we can get the rotation right as well. Use gold or silver, don't use black. I'm going to start at the back end of the bike, just cut this cable end cap off first. Take that out of derailleur. While you're here, make sure you screw this in because they're ready for the new cable. Screw it all the way in, then a couple of turns just to give you adjustment both ways. What you definitely don't want to do is rip everything straight out the frame. You can take this one out there because we're going to leave the inner cable straight in there. So you can see it's badly frayed all the way in there. Take that off, but leave that in. Same on the front, we're just going to cut this off. Leave yourself as much cable as you can at the moment. Piece of cable here, you're never going to pull that through a frame. We are going to need to cut it to a good clean piece of cable here before we can start pulling it anywhere. So we'll leave it as it is for now. We'll do one first. So onto the front of the frame on these Planet X, because we've disconnected that at the back, we have got some slack here now. Don't pull it any more than this, that's all you need at the moment. Then we need to unclip this and get it out of the frame without breaking it. Same on the other side. So that's out of the frame now and loose and still out, attached at the back end. So what I want to do now is put it out of the lever, cut the nipple off the lever, pull this outer cable off and leave an inner cable both ends, and then we can work with that. So because we've got some slack, we can just pull this out of the lever now, like that. And then we need to get the nipple through the bottom of the lever. Not too bad on these SRAM ones, you're just literally pushing this bit at the top and it'll come out the bottom there. And all I'm going to do is cut this nipple off as close as we can. So at this point, you're fully committed. Let's pull that out the lever. Now I can pull this inner cable out of the housing. Take this piece off with it as well. Leave it there for now. So now if you grab the front and the back, you'll feel a cable just rattling around in the frame here. I don't feel any resistance there. It feels like it may behave. There's a couple of tricks we can try first though. Again, just going to pull this front one out now. We've got a bit of slack, not much, but a bit. That comes out there. Out of the lever and remove the housing again. So what I'd recommend you do now until you're ready to go for the actual pull, just use some insulating tape here just to stick this to the frame. Because if you end up turning the bike upside down or whatever, gravity is going to make this fall into the frame and then you've got issues. So just take them on until we're ready for the next step. If you're going to be doing this job, this is the secret on how to do it properly. This is a cable liner, just goes inside the frame and you basically leave this in from here to here, and you can run cables forwards and backwards all you like. Take it out if need be. We're going to use the same stuff for down here. You can actually just leave it all the way in there if you want to, it's fine. gives you some extra protection underneath the bottom bracket. But without this, you're going to struggle. So get yourself some of this. I'll put a link below. It's dead easy. So what we need to do now is access this bottom bracket area underneath here where the cables do it. You can see them externally. So what I'm going to do is just whip the wheels off, clamp the bar so they can't spin, and then going to turn the bike through 90 degrees to give access to that. Let's just take these wheels out. So I'm just going to use this part tool bar clamp just to keep the bar straight while we tip it on its end. Otherwise they're going to just flap around and smash into the top tube, which is not ideal. Just get this on here like that. Set your bar straight and tighten that down. And now these bars can't spin around on their own. So they're pretty useful tools, these are. Now what we're going to do is turn the bike through 90 degrees so we've got access to the bottom bracket area down here. You'll see the cable. This is the rear derailleur cable. It's loose obviously because we've cut both ends of it off basically, so that's got slack in it. And this is the front derailleur cable. Again, there's slack in that. So I'm going to take the screw out. This plastic plate will then just pull out and we'll have good access to the down tube then. Right. And I'm just going to pull this out slightly. There you go. That one there, and that one there. So you get rid of this for now. So there's the rear derailleur cable, which we've got access to. So if I pull that now, it will come through from the down tube, but we don't want to pull it yet. So now I've got a piece of liner that's long enough to go from the down tube entry with a few inches out all the way out the back of the dropout with again with a few inches spare. So basically the length of the bike. What we're going to do is thread this over this cable, and it'll come out down the bottom bracket. Just thread this through the tape as well. The tape should be loose. There you go. What you're trying to not do is push the cable. It should slide over this very easily because it's being supported there. But if you watch it on the dropout, if you see it coming out the other end, just stop. So this should come out the bottom bracket shortly. This is the rear derailleur cable. It's not moving, so we know we're not pushing the cable through. So we can quite happily just push this liner down. There she is. So that's come out there now. So that's good. And basically what you can do then is just keep going all the way out the back. We've got loads spare at the top still. We cut this carefully to length so we know what the length of it is. And this should just keep going and going and going. Just going to keep pushing that through. You can very gently pull this cable now because the liner is safe at the top. We can't lose that now. And this should come out any second now. There. Okay. Right, so now that's through there. You've got zero stress about recabling this. That liner, you can't go wrong now. It's through the whole bike. So what we can do, we can pull this in and out now. We don't need this. It can go out altogether. Done. And for goodness sake, whatever you do, make sure you tape this on for now, because we're obviously not finished yet. Take that somewhere nice and safe like that. Okay, right, so front derailleur cable exactly the same, just going threading it on at the top of the down tube, threading the liner on until it comes out. Right, so the inner cable has come through now, so I can very easily push this liner down now. There we go, dead easy again. So again, on this one here, this is the liner we've now threaded all the way through the bottom bracket. Leave a couple of inches at the top, and then just secure this to the frame so it doesn't drop through. Again, just more insulating tape. That's fine. If you're wondering what this bit of tape is, the guy's got his name on the bike, so I'm not going to show that obviously. Okay, so I'm going to pull this inner cable all the way out now because we can't get the liner through that easily, unfortunately. But it's not the end of the world, don't worry. So you can see this, I've shined a torch behind it now, you can see that's the other half of that hole behind where the front derailleur goes. So we've just got to get this liner through the hole basically, it's only a couple of inches away. Now what you can do is just prod the old gear cable that you just pulled out back through that hole. So now what you end up with is the liner from the down tube. I'm not going to use that ultimately, it's just to get the new cable through. On this bike here, it's pretty straightforward. You probably could quite easily just drop an inner cable all the way through and it'll come out there, but just be on the safe side, use these liners. So this is the old bit of gear cable we've just prodded through that hole, through the bottom bracket shell. And all we need to replace is this piece of plastic here. That's the new piece there. Try not to go longer because they are cut so that they don't basically smash into the bottom bracket shell or the front derailleur, so the length is quite specific on these. Let's just thread this through the top now. So again, thread this onto the old piece of cable that you've put through there. If you have a piece of cable both sides of it, you can push and pull until it drops through. So that's just going to go down there now, hopefully. Like that. There you go, that's in now. So that's in there now, no problem. Okay, and then getting down at the shell, that's that piece here we've just gone through. So we can pull that cable out now. So now we have a liner for the front. This is the rear derailleur all the way through the frame. This front derailleur from the down tube to the bottom bracket, and this is to the front derailleur underneath the bottom bracket shell. So we can put inner cables in there, no problem at all now. That's not going to fall out because it's a very tight fit through the frame, so it's okay where it is. This one's taped up, that one's taped up both ends. So now I can move back to the levers. So with the gear cable housing sorted, we can look at the levers now. Looking at this bar, obviously this clamp should be somewhere within this range, so it's very, very high on the bar, and it's blocking one of the cable entry points. There is another one around here which is almost accessible here. I'm not sure we're going to get 2 cables in there though, so we're going to just drop this lever down and see if it's going to be possible. Being a SRAM lever, there's only one entry point for the gear lever as well. On a Shimano one you have 2 angles normally, so you could have used this one for the gear cable quite easily. But on this one we're going to have to use this one hole here for brake hose and gear cable housing, so it might be a bit tight. So let's just drop this down and see how much room we've got. Just 5mm. Just drop that out of the way for now, we don't need that. There's a gear cable housing and a brake hose, they do fit in there. Obviously we're going to have to drop this lever down the bar slightly to be able to do this. I've spoken to the customer and he's happy to do that. We can obviously rotate the handlebar to compensate for any position change on the lever to get it back to somewhere similar to where it was. So there is room there. Obviously we need to, this would be the gear cable, and brake hose has got to go inside the lever itself, so it would have to sit somewhere here like this really to be able to get the angles without being too sharp. So I mean, it's possible. Is the juice worth the squeeze there? That's the question. I think it probably is. With it being a SRAM lever, there's a banjo inside here which we can't really cut. So if we were to pull the brake hose, we've got to pull it all the way from the calipers, rethread it back through the frame, and re-terminate it at the end of the calipers after we've threaded this hose through the bar. So it's a pretty major job, unfortunately. The other issue obviously is dot fluid. We're going to be splashing brake fluid around the frame while we're doing it, so you've got to be super careful with that. So I think that's what we're going to have to try. Like I say, it's going to be a bit of a mission, but that's what the customer wants. That's what we're going to do. So obviously first we just need to remove this gear housing. That'll thread through the bar without too much difficulty. It's the brake hose that's the challenge. What we need is wireless brakes. It's coming. So we need to cut this hose here, pull this hose through the fork, thread it through the bar, thread it back through the fork, re-terminate it here with a new banjo and olive. Alright, so I'm just going to take these pads out first so we're not risking any contamination of these. You need to just slide this boot off, access to the nut here, undo that, pull some hose through, cut that off, connect a reverb connector, pull some spare brake hose through there, thread it all through the lever, pull it back through, re-banjo this, and then repeat on the rear. And then you've got to bleed it, which is probably the worst part of the job. I hate bleeding SRAM brakes, they're just horrendous. The fact that dot fluid just, oh god, why? So the reason we've got to cut this is because this won't go through the frame, obviously. There we go, that's out. Need to cut it as close as possible to the barb to save as much hose as possible, because otherwise, like I say, it's £43–44 for a hose front and rear to do this job. So we've got to be super careful. So I'm going to try a cut there. You'll feel if you're hitting the barb quickly. That's hitting the barb. Move down 1mm at a time until you've got enough. Let's cut through there. Just missed it. Take the nut on the boot off. See, it's about 10mm, maybe a bit more. Okay, now we've got to attach a piece of hose to this. So you might have seen this in my other video. It's a reverb hose connector. It's absolutely perfect for pulling hydraulic hoses. They're screwed together basically with ones with a reverse thread. Get the direction right, so we're going this way, and then it should wind itself into the other one. It's a bit fiddly to get started, but once it goes in, say one's got a left-hand thread, so it screws into both at the same time. It's a brilliant tool. Just a bit fiddly and very difficult to focus on. So that's in now, and basically made the hose into one, so we can easily pull this through the fork now and not be concerned. Just goes through like that, dead easy. Okay, so we can just pull this through the fork now. If we undo this now, we can thread this hose through the bar, reconnect this and pull it back through. It might be okay just to pull this through on there, but you never know, it's not worth a chance. If you've got something to connect it to, it pulls through much easier. Okay, so that's off. Now we can pull this through the bar. So this hose now will thread through this hole, and it should come out back here. I think it comes out on its own pretty easy on these, thankfully. Famous last words. There you go. So that's come out easily on this one. Some of them are a bit more of a challenge, but that's straightforward. So just feed that through. Just be careful you're not flicking brake fluid everywhere. So that's about where we want the lever anyway. I'm just going to tighten this up slightly to keep it where it needs to be lengthwise. We can go probably to about there, just 10mm below where it was. That's just loosely tightened up there. Now get this back through the fork. This is the easy one. The rear one's going to be, I mean, it's the same principle, but obviously we've got to go through the entire frame. So you need a long piece of spare hose to make sure you can do it. I mean, obviously there's 101 kits for pulling hoses and stuff through the frame, but I just find this much easier and more reliable. The worst thing you want to do is this to come undone halfway through the frame, and this will never come undone. You'll destroy the hose before you can get this undone. Right, that's more than tight enough. So now I'm just going to pull that back through the fork with this piece that's down the bottom. Apologies if this is not in focus, but it's a bit challenging to focus on hoses and cables. Right, need to make sure we've got enough here. You're spinning your bars, that's fine. Don't need too much on the front because it moves with the bar basically. So let's undo this now. Thread the boot on and the nut on before you forget. The right way around. Definitely don't forget them, it'd be a bad day then. Then we just need new barb kit. So this one just screws in with T8 Torx, screws into the hose. Don't press in like most of them do, these are quite good. That's it, just till it's flush with the end. And just thread this piece onto that. Left hand thread on that, so that screws into there. Now we can get this back in the caliper so we're not losing any more fluid anyway. Make sure this screws in straight. It's probably easy to take the caliper off so you make sure you get this in straight, but I'm going to chance it. No, I'm not. I'm going to take the caliper off. If there's any chance whatsoever you cross-threading something and you can do it a better way, always do that, because otherwise it's new caliper, well, new banjo at least. Right, now we can thread this in nice and straight. That's it, it's on. Obviously we'll tighten it. We've got to bleed the system, I'll say that's literally the worst part of the job, I think. Okay, that's on. We'll leave this now. For when we're bleeding it, we can move the caliper around and get more air out, so we'll leave it like that for now. We'll tighten this up there. That's good there. Right, now I'm going to clean all this. So anything that might have been in contact with brake fluid, just soapy water is fine for this. Use brake cleaner, acetone, whatever you want, but soapy water is fine. Right, so I'm going to run the gear cable housing now through the bar. Just obviously cut yourself a new piece. There's no point getting this far and not changing this, it'd be crazy. So what I'm going to do is use the new gear cable, hook that through the cable, I'll show you. Hook that all the way through the cable so the cable end is pulled up tight against that cable. And we're going to thread this through the bar, out this hole, and we'll be able to pull it through. Just thread this through here, and it comes straight out there, dead easy on this. And now we should just be able to pull this outer all the way through. It goes in, and with a little bit of pull, there we go, we're out. Right, that's all we're doing with that at the moment. We're not fitting the cable just yet. Just want to get the housing in the bar. So you can pull that gear cable out now. 2 done, 2 to go. Right, so moving on to the back, we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to disconnect this hose, connect a spare piece of hose, pull it all the way through, thread it through the bar, and then back through to the caliper. Take these pads out first. I'm just going to put a cloth on this one because there's a bit more chance of getting fluid anyway, so I'm just going to cover that up. Okay, so that's out. Make sure any drips go on the floor, obviously. Cut that. It's a Jaguar cutter if anybody's wondering. It's quite nice. It's off. Take your nut and your boot off. Several meters of hose here, so I'm just going to leave this as it is and pull through whatever we need. Obviously this hose and the sleeving is not free. It is a cost that you need to take into account when you're doing this. However, it's cheaper than buying a kit, like a cable pulling kit that doesn't do the job as well as this. So you see the paint's coming off this Allen key with this brake fluid. It's pretty nasty stuff. So everyone uses mineral fluid, including SRAM now, to be fair to them. They've eventually binned it for most of the new stuff. Okay, so that's fine in. Now we can pull it through. There's one of these on the brake hose at the back I've just took out as well, a bit more room. Okay. That's through, dead easy. Then we don't need to pull it through any more than that. We need to just make sure it doesn't fall into the frame again. It's pretty rigid, I don't think this is going anywhere. Just undo that coupling. So now we're going to thread this through the bar, same as we did the last one. Right, so I've turned the bike around so I've got better access to it now, so just need to loosen this lever. Okay. And this hose is going in here. thread this through. If you point it, bend this hose slightly so when it gets towards this end it's going to naturally want to come out. And just thread it through and pray. Again, not too bad at all, that one. Right, let's thread all this through. Try not to scratch it too much because it will as it goes. When you push it, just make sure you're in the middle of the hole so you're not just scratching everything, the hose. It doesn't make any difference, but just try not to. Get your lever back to where you want it approximately, around about there. As the brake hose through, and we're going to reconnect that again and pull it back through. Good. Now I can pull that back through the frame, the other end. So there's our spare hose there, just pull that through. And there's our coupling there, so that's dead easy. And that's the front, we've got plenty of hose there to be able to turn the bars through 90 degrees. There's plenty there. Good. So we're just going to undo that, put a new olive on there. Just get these bits back on the frame, so there's your frame guide, your olive, your nut cover, your nut and your barb in the right order. And back into the caliper. Again, take the caliper off if you're not confident in getting it in without damaging it. Let's see how this one looks. Slip that back in the frame first. You can pull this all through the front at the moment to give some slack. Again, I'm just going to take this caliper off so we can get it in straight because it doesn't want to line up very well. Obviously means you've got to align your pads and discs again, but hey. Clean this as well. Once in a lifetime this gets cleaned. Nicely faced on here, nice. Tiny drop of Loctite on these because it is already factory fitted. And refit this caliper loosely. Now just tighten this up. Good. Boot over there, done. Again, just a bit of soapy water in the area just to make sure there's no brake fluid dissolving anything. To the front, we can just refit this clip in here now. Done. The gear cable, again, we're going to just thread the outer onto the new inner temporarily. Thread this through the bar, like that, and pull that outer through. This front derailleur cable outer is in two pieces. It's got a cable tension adjuster on. Obviously you can't pull that through the bar, so we're just pulling the front section of it, this short front section of it first. Get that in the bar and pull. Okay, that's just about through. There you go. A bit tighter that one. Okay, that's fine for now. Pull that outer, sorry, pull the inner back out of there. Okay. Going to put the cable end on. We can locate the cable into the lever and position the lever then. We're not going to be far off where they were originally by the looks of it. Okay, that's there. Yeah, we're almost where we were. We are about 5mm lower than we were, but we are in line, so I'm going to tighten this up almost to its almost to its final position now. Right, so that looks really good there and there. There's no sharp bends on it. Done. Let's do the same on the other side. Fold these back when you're not using them because quite often you'll end up with a big crease on these. Same on this one. So we just need, oh, that's come out the wrong hole. Okay, I've made a mistake. That one there should have come out here, so I'll just redo this one. Oh! It goes through this one, and then out of there, and then pull it through. No big deal. Could have been worse, could have been the brake hose. Always make sure you fit cable end caps, honestly it's just disasters if you don't. These just splay open and game over for shifting. We're just going to get this in here, which is a bit challenging because the brake hose is pulled it tight. I'm just going to pull it through, get it located and push it back in and push it through there. Okay, that's about where it should be. Okay, this lever's a bit low, so that's good. Get back up to where we should be, about there. You can push this lever, you can see the gold lines we put, so we're not a million miles away from there now. So that's good. We'll finalise that later, but that's pretty much in position. So that's them both now fully routed, both brake hoses and gear cable inners. So now we can actually fit the gear cable inners, which is what this bike originally came in for. Feels like an eternity ago. Very difficult to focus, but that's where the inner cable sits into this blue bit here. Red on the right hand side for some reason, but it just threads through there and out the top of the lever. Pretty straightforward this bit compared to the rest of the job. So you just thread it into that housing there and now it comes out the top. We're on the home stretch now, don't we? Right, it should just go through now with a bit of persuasion. There's quite a tight bend here now, so it can be a bit challenging. Once it goes, it goes. Same again, just thread through there. And yes, I've got AliExpress Crocs on. They're pretty good actually. So when we first set the gears, we'll be putting a lot of tension on this, so it will push any housings, will find their own way home properly. And then we can set the gears. Just going to bolt this caliper back on now. So it can be beneficial sometimes to leave it loose when you're bleeding, so you can tip it upside down and whatnot, but we'll see how we get on. We're not tightening these yet because we'll need to align these with the rotor because we've had it off. I think we'll chuck some bleed blocks in there now before I forget. The Shimano block, they fit really nicely. So just take this off now. Need that. So this is the cable we're looking at, and it routes down to about here. So we need to be able to make sure we can get all the way around here till the bar basically touches the top tube, and we've still got enough slack here. We're not going to be pulling the cable out of the stop. So we can see we can lose probably 2 inches off this cable quite safely. The only problem with doing that is you've got to just pull the inner out slightly, which is not really a problem. You just pull it through the gear lever to the end, pull it 2 inches back, chop that, and then push it back through. So that's out the gear lever. So I'm going to pull it all the way back until it basically disappears here. There. And then we're going to pull back sort of this much here. And we can cut this now. Yeah, I think around about there. Be fine. Just open that back up with your pick, whatever you've got, rattle or something like that. Alright, so we get some of this tape off now. Make sure the other side doesn't fall in, but it should be okay now. Not moving the bike around too much. Just going to push this cable back through the lever now, hopefully. It'll come out the end. And there we go. And pull that back into the lever. Right, that's seated. We need a cable end cap on this now. So your frame guide, whatever you want to call it, stop. So that'll basically sit like this. And now we're going to thread the inner through the liner that we put in there. It should just go straight out the back end of the chainstay. Right, moment of truth, that should just come through the end now. There we go. Perfect. Pull your liner through a little bit to give you some slack now. Clip your frame guide in. Clip that guide in. And then clip your cable in. And that's that bit done. And at the back we can now pull this liner all the way through now. We don't need it. Done. That's how you fit a cable. So onto the rear derailleur. This piece came with a frame that locates into the chainstay. That just goes in there like that. And obviously I've got a new piece of outer. I'll thread the cable through and into the rear derailleur. We're done. So it's easy. So on the front I've just fitted this piece with the adjuster. That goes on there. Cable lengthwise looks about right, to be fair. So here's the liner. If you put a 90-degree bend on it as well, that can help. Obviously not lose it inside the frame while you're playing with it. Put the frame stop on. That's there. And again we go through the liner, that'll come out the bottom bracket. It's only quite a short run obviously down to the bottom bracket, so it's easy. Just got to go past this kink in the cable in the liner, there we go. And that'll come straight out the bottom bracket. That's it, it's out. So now I can pull that through. I can pull the liner through as well, we don't need the liner now. Pull the cable. Just get this housing in place. And clip that in there. That is done as well. So now we have the front derailleur at the bottom bracket. So it's literally just a case now going through this, take this piece of line off, going through this other liner that we've fitted, see that, and that'll come out the top of this, and then put that plastic plate back in. And that's that one there. And then we're going to put that plate back in that was in the shell. Just drop that back in where it was. Make sure you remember which is the front, which is the back. That's in. I'm going to put the screw back in. Okay, just going to run this cable through the rear derailleur, through your barrel adjuster, nice and straight. On this derailleur it's slightly unusual, it goes, there's a little groove under here. So it's on there, goes over the top of this bolt and then out the front here. And the 2 little pegs that line up with 2 slots on the bottom. Just tighten those up. That's nice. Don't go crazy tight yet because it's all going to settle itself in when we start shifting. That's okay for now. So the rear derailleur pinch bolt is a 5mm, but they use a 4 on the front. That's like amazing. Well done. I'm just going to take this out because if you remember when it came in, the cable was over like this, and that's incorrect for this one. So I'll take this out and you can see So the groove here, and the cable basically just sits straight out here like that. Doesn't go down here. You can see all the damage it's caused. There's a clear line where it sits. Again, make sure your lever is set to the smallest chainring. Put a bit of tension on there and just nip it up so it sits in that slot. So you've got no gloves on. This is a wax bike, so it's nice and clean. Again, I'm not doing it much tighter than that at the moment because we do need to set it all. So now we've done that, I'm just going to pull the lever, see if it actually shifts. Yep, that looks like it'll work. This derailleur is far too low. Look at it, it's pretty much touching the cage here. You're allowed a 1 to 3 millimeter gap, but that's pretty much touching there. I can barely get my nail in there, so we're going to raise that up. It's also not parallel either. You should be able to put your Allen key on there, especially on this nice flat chain ring. And it should be, see that's fouling on the cage there. It should be able to do this, it's parallel. So this needs to go in and up very slightly. That'll add a little bit of tension to the cable when we raise it up, so that's good. So the derailleur done. So now it's time to focus on these brakes. Put the wheels back in, set the gears, wrap the bars, job done. Just going to tie these cables out of the way. Just going to trim that down nicely there. Good. Now, I wonder which colour we're going to fit on this one. Let's go gold. Oh yeah. This cable's going to live up here, not bent over like it was before, so we're just going to keep it fairly short. Like that. Done. That's a good match out of this, perfect. Right, so I'm just going to bleed these brakes now. I've just done the front one actually. Just go for the rear now. When you do the rear, make sure your caliper is way below the lever like this. So if you've got a good stand like this, you can get the bike at a suitable angle. So it's really important that you let air sort of flow upwards. So let's just connect these syringes. So this is not going to be a full tutorial on how to bleed brakes. Unfortunately, there's many really good videos out there with such good detail that I couldn't really try and replicate that at the moment. But I'll just go through the basics with these. Obviously we're connecting a syringe. This is a dot system, so you've got to be really careful. Make sure that O-ring comes out, put that somewhere safe. It's the preparation in the syringe is getting the air out of the brake fluid, and by pulling vacuum on the lever several times. That's important. Even though it may look like there's no air, you need to sort of pressurize the syringe to pull out any air that's left in the fluid, so make sure you do that. That's important. So I'm going to push up from the caliper on this one. We've not got bleeding edge on this one, unfortunately, so it's slightly more fiddly, but I'm going to push fluid up from the caliper on this one. Do as much as you can to try and prevent brake fluid all over everything. We are going to clean it down, obviously, but there's no O-ring on this one. Once it's on, you can unclip your hoses. So I'm just going to push the fluid through from the caliper now. So this is why I'm not doing a video, because I need 2 cameras to do them both at the same time to make it sort of worthwhile. And so until I learn how to do that, this is what we're going to get. Just open this clip and just push that through. You should see a lot of air in there now. There you go. Push that back through now to the caliper. Make sure you don't empty the syringe, that's critical. Leave it at that, and we can push back through again. Then we can move to the next stage. Probably out of focus, but like I say, it's pretty damn impossible to do it on my own with one camera, so I will do it at some point. There's not much coming out of that now. I'm just going to clip this off now. So all you need to do is squeeze the lever and lock it onto the bar with the elastic band that you normally get, or a toe strap or something similar. So the lever's clamped off now, so we can just pull this syringe very gently to pull any air out of the caliper like this. Just vacuum it out really, so until you get most of it out. Let the pressure go, fill it back up again, press it in a little bit, and then just repeat that until there's no air coming out. It takes a while. Just take your time, the more air you can get out, the better. When you're happy there's no more air coming out of there, we'll go back up to the lever, release the elastic band, but hold the lever to the bar, and then we very slowly release the bar. Then we very slowly release the lever while we're pressing this in, just to fill the system. So I'm just very slowly letting the brake lever out now while I'm pressing this syringe. Not very tight on these, sort of 1.5 to 2 Newton meters tops. So back at the lever, we just open the clip, and then we push and pull. Again, so we're pulling now, just a little bit of vacuum to suck any air out that's in here. Release that, pressure back in, pull it back out again. That's good. So one final push in with push this syringe finally in, and then we're going to refit that plug. Again, just get ready for fluid because there's going to be some. Not much you can do about that. Keep your thumb over it as soon as you've got access to it, like that. Got your plug, get ready to go in. Again, not very tight on this one. Barely more than hand tight. So the bleed block is still fitted, so this lever should be nice now. I'll just take this out now, put the pads back in. Just going to spin it up now and bed these brakes in nicely. Oh, that feels good. Still need to center the caliper obviously because we've had that off, but the lever feels nice. Good, same on the back. Just going to clean the area of the frame where I've had all that sticky tape on. This is muck off matte finish. It's not bad. I'm still looking for the best product for cleaning matte frames with, if anybody's got any better recommendations. Gloss is easy, obviously you can use pretty much anything, but matte finishes it's difficult to get a good finish on them. Also these clips, there's a little peg at the back. You just need to flick back in so they stay in properly, which I've obviously already done. So now what we need to do really is check the gears, wrap the bars, and I think we're done. I'm just going to run through these gears now. They shouldn't be too bad. All we've done is change the cable basically. We've not changed any settings on the derailleur, so it should be pretty much as they were. That's pretty good. Alright, let's check this front one. We've got some rub on this derailleur because it's not parallel. It's only Polaris gear. You should have some clearance down here, so we're just going to spin this around fractionally. Just got a chain guard on here that just got to take off to access the bolt first. It comes off. I'm literally just going to spin this around a tiny bit. A bit better. So we're pretty much parallel now, so I should get rid of that rub. Let's put this chain guard back on. Check that now. Let's get rid of that rub. Does it shift the... Yeah. Okay. Tiny bit more tension now. Just use this adjuster here that's on the cable. Just need to unscrew that to get some more tension. Try that again. But just the bars left to wrap, and I managed to get some orange tape for next day delivery, so that's going to go on. I think looks quite nice. Similar to the other, but it's perfect match to the sticker that's on the top tube. So let's go with this. So I'm just going to wrap these up now. I'm going to do a video soon on bar tape wrapping directions. So there's going to be I think I'm going to do 8 different directions, just so we can all fight it out in the comments as which is best once and for all. So it'll be quite an interesting video. I only do it sort of 1 or 2 ways. It's going to be a learning curve for me to see how to wrap it so many different ways, but let's see how it goes. It's on the list of videos to do, and there's many to do, so could be quite good fun. All right, let's get this wrapped. I'll try their finishing tape, but in my experience, they pretty much all fall off. They're hopeless. They've got one job in life, and they can't design something that's going to stick for more than a minute. I'll give it a go. Not too bad. Just put this plug in. Okay, just finish the other side, and that's a wrap. Always wanted to say that. There we go. A word on internal routing tools. If you do need them, obviously I have many of them. What I tend to find is I've got a selection of 3 or 4 kits that basically make up what you need. But generally speaking, this is the only one. Obviously I've used this today. Pretty much this is the only one I use really if I can help it, plus the spare hose and the cable liner as well. There's loads of different ones where this slips over the thing. I've got a bendy magnet one here, but problem is most of these cables are not magnetic, so you can't really just pull a cable through the stainless, so they're not particularly magnetic. So you obviously pull the tools through, they're designed to. My advice on these is try not to use them, try to do it properly with the cable line or the spare hose, etc. I mean, this cable line and spare hose is cheaper than buying this tool anyway, and you can see it's actually pretty straightforward once you get the preparation done properly and put the liner into the frame, or whatever, whichever way you want to do it. What I tend to use these for really is when things have gone wrong and there's no particular liner inside, something snapped, blah blah blah. These are the sort of get out of jail free tools, but they are very, very time consuming generally speaking, but they do work. There's other things you can do like hoovers and cotton and stuff like that, but the combination of several cheap kits, these are all from AliExpress, Normally you can find something that's going to get the task done that's required. But yeah, they're a bit of a mess. They're not the easiest thing to store either, because they just unravel like crazy. So yeah, I do have them, but I don't use them if I can help it. So all I've used today is this cable liner. This is Jaguar. You don't need to buy 75 miles of it like this. It's workshop. And again, this is spare brake hose. Again, this is for a workshop. You don't need this much. And the reverb pulling tool. That's it. So that's all we've used to do this today. So we're all done. Customer's coming to collect it this afternoon. I think he's very happy. He's already seen some pictures of it. Can watch the video hopefully. So yeah, it can be a pretty daunting job depending on the bike. They are all different. So I mean, this video is not a one fix for every single bike. You know, there's so many different combinations through the headset, etc, etc. But the general principles, even when you go through the headset and the bars and the stem, the principle's the same. If you can get a liner in there first, or get this reverb tool to pull the hose through, it's pretty straightforward really, to be honest. But that's not going to cover it. Like I say, that's not going to cover every single bike on the market. There's so many different ways of doing it, but this should give you some ideas. But get a toolkit if you want to, that's fine. It's always helpful. But my advice really would be to get the liner and some spare brake hose. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, all that great stuff if you've not. The channel's growing great now, over 1,000 subscribers, so onwards and upwards. Thank you.